Well, we're back. Good morning. Welcome to the Stochastic.com NBA strategy show. I ask you to bear with me this fine morning as I get my legs back underneath me. I thought this was my first NBA show that I've done all year, but then, Josh, I realized I did live before lock with you on opening night. So it's
You
not,
did indeed.
I pulled up the run sheet and I was like 10-24,
Yeah.
2000. What the heck is this? And then I realized we did the first 2-game slate of the. I'm glad to be back with you, man. I'm glad to be back with you guys. It'll take me a little bit. I've been
Yeah.
doing like 100 NFL shows a week, give or take, for the past 4 months. But this happens every year, and it should be fun, man. So this is the first show you and I have done in like 3 months. How you
Yeah.
doing, bro?
It's good to have you back. It's
Thanks, man.
fun. I've been
Thanks,
waiting
man.
for this one. And the good news is, wait, there's no, is there an NFL? There's no NFL tonight, right?
No, we do have Monday next week though with the wild card round. It's the Eagles. They
So
put the Eagles on Monday night for I can't catch a break, dude.
you don't want that?
No, I hate the late games. I don't want to watch. I don't want to watch. I don't want to be in pain and agony until 11:30 at night. Like just put me out of my misery by 4 o'clock or 7 o'clock on a Saturday. You know what I mean?
Who do they play?
The Bucks.
All right.
Yeah. And the Eagles are favored on the road despite how bad they've been.
Have they been bad? I don't know.
Oh, dude, they started
And I'm
10.
not saying that. I legitimately have no idea what's been happening.
They started the season 10-1 straight up, 6-2-3 against the spread. To close the season out, they are 1-5 straight up, 0-6 against the spread. They lost to the Giants. They got smoked by the Giants 27-10. Tyrod Taylor yesterday. They lost to the Cardinals straight up last week. No, it's been bad. Yeah, it's been tough. And we're going to talk basketball, but what was even worse yesterday is just like the story of my day. Did you play any NFL yesterday?
I did. I had exceptional pre-lock ROI on the afternoon slate, and I got about 10% of my money back.
Yeah, I have 1% Joe Mixon.
Okay.
Everywhere.
I didn't play the main.
Okay. So he with Mullins and Jefferson, both big games.
Yeah.
Just like put it this way, going into the afternoon, I was setting up really, really nicely. And then I had AJ Brown in like all of those lineups, finished with 0.9.
Is he hurt?
He got hurt his knee, had one reception for 6 yards and fumbled on it. So
I knew he got hurt. I actually saw the play where he got hurt. But is there news?
they're saying it's not major.
Okay.
All I know,
he didn't look great when it happened.
No, not at all. And then Hurts dislocated his finger. Sometimes I'd just rather be dead from the jump. No going into the 4 o'clocks. Like, hey, time to get those afternoon lineups in. I didn't even play afternoon lineups. I should have, but I was out with the family.
I wish I didn't.
Maybe it's a good thing I did.
I get home from an awesome Liverpool win. Like I'm flying high, feel great. Didn't play the main slate, but then NBA locked at 6, so I was like, it was 3:30. It's just in between. I was like, oh, like I'm riding high. I want some action. I don't have anything. I had to wait out a golf lineup that I had that was sweating, winning
I
the
saw you
golf
finished
contest.
like top 30 in that or something.
Oh, dude, I was sitting first through a big chunk of the back 9. I had Ben sweating it for me too. So, but I didn't have that to sweat yet, and I needed something. And Adam was like, "Oh, well, like afternoon's good." And I just figured it was like a 3-game slate, and then I found out that it was 7. I was like, "Oh shit, nice, I'm in." So I immediately got all that together, got it ready, loved everything that I had set up, loved my exposures, everything looked good. Evaluated after the fact, pre-lock ROI was fantastic. Top 10 for anybody that was playing at least 50 lineups. Felt awesome. Absolutely destroyed.
Well, I wonder what it was. Did you have like heavy Justin Fields exposure or something?
Nope.
I'm trying to figure out what it would have been.
I could tell you if you want to know.
I mean,
who's the Niners jerk off that barely played?
Oh wait, what do you mean?
Whatever running back was supposed to play a shit ton but played like shit.
Mason. Yeah, that'll do it.
So he sucked. That one didn't help me in any way. Yeah, I got $110 back on the 50 lineups that I played. I think I cashed 4. Does that sound right?
Just
Is that
sounds
the right
about
number? Yeah, I
right.
cashed four. I cashed four lineups. My exposure, my most exposed guys were Tyler Lockett, who was fine.
He had a long, like
Uh,
50-yard touchdown at the end.
Chargers defense, which, it's defense, so whatever. Like Zamir White,
He
eh.
was fine.
Trey McBride, eh. Jordan Mason sucked. Then I had CD Lamb, but he was obviously chalk. Geno Smith, not anything special. And then it starts to get a little bit bleaker. Kenneth Walker, not great. DK Metcalf had a crisp 2.
Yeah, that was shocking. That was bad. Look, it's a
Dallas
tough.
Goddard, 1.
Yeah. Well, they pulled Hurts too. They pulled that. That was the end for me. But
Yeah, it didn't
yeah,
go well.
wait, did you play 150 in the main
No,
one?
50.
50. Okay. Okay. So 4 out of 50 ain't bad. I was cashing all these single entry ones, like the mid stakes, the spy, the red zone and stuff with Chargers defense. They gave up a meaningless field goal at the end, and it knocked me out and just bubbled me on everything. Went from being like, hey, I had a slightly profitable day despite having 30% AJ Brown to losing money. So you know how it goes. Anyway, let's talk basketball. This is my first strategy show of the season. Glad to be doing it with you, man. We'll have some fun, break it
I
all
love
down,
it.
be back for the deeper dive tonight. And if you haven't done so yet, take one single second, atone for your sins here on the strategy show. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I don't know what the benchmark is. Like Ben and I yesterday on the Sunday show, we were trying to get to 1,000. We did. We hit like 1,200. Not bad. Longer
Yeah,
show, bigger audience, live
yeah,
before lock style. What's reasonable here? 150?
yeah, about right.
Yeah.
We're 500 will be the deeper dive goal.
Okay.
Um, you get to 100 here. It's a thin crowd in the mornings. Depends on
That's
the
okay.
slate too.
Well, we're glad you guys are with us. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below if you're listening or watching after the fact. We always try and read and respond to all of them. And check
Ah,
us out in podcast form, man. If you want it, like just close your phone, you're driving, you're doing something, and you don't have YouTube Premium, whatever it may be. You could just go into Apple Podcasts or Spotify. All of this stuff, anything with a shelf life is there. So check it out and leave us a rating and a review. Say hello to Josh and myself. All right.
yeah.
So let's clear the elephant in the room here for a second. With Damian Lillard out, just everything on this slate is insane.
It
The
is.
initial ownership run just has the Bucks up top everywhere, with so many other teams as far as ownership bottomed out below 5%, like across the board.
Yeah, it's a wild one. It changes everything. The fact that it starts at 8 is a problem because we could just not know who's starting for the Bucks
Well,
until
Cameron Payne's out too.
7:31. Yeah. Uh, with Lillard, and we're going to get to it, obviously, with Lillard off and Payne off, the most minutes that anybody has played with those two guys not on the floor is 55, and that's Giannis, who is not the guy that we need like additional information for. It's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster. Could be great. And then you're going to play somebody and like they're not going to show up on the floor tonight. So this should be a real fun time.
I mean, do you play it for safety and hope that this guy gives you because here's the thing. If it's a complete disaster and it's a total mess, in a lot of instances, we could talk about this and go, yeah, I just don't know if I want to do anything with this. And I'll just stick with the Giannis and the Middleton and the Lopez, because obviously Lillard, a high usage player, going to be out there a ton. Like clearly Middleton and Giannis and all those guys are more intriguing. They're just far better plays.
Yes.
Once you get down to the guys that are actually absorbing those minutes, that like, do you take, let's just say 7:00 starts, 7:00, we tip off. And let's also not ignore the fact that while there are 6 games on this slate, this is the 5th game to lock.
Yeah.
So, right. It's not like, oh, it's 8:00.
It's not easy.
Right. But there's only one game at 7 or 7:30 and then whatever, this is the 5th game to lock. So even from a late swapping perspective, you're not going to have that many options this early in the morning. How do you play something like this if we don't get definitive news?
Well, you end up playing a shit ton of all the dudes that are already functionally good
Correct.
plays for Milwaukee, whether that's Middleton, Giannis, Lopez, Connaughton, Beauchamp. It's figuring out where those extra 48 minutes are going to be allocated today on guys that, at least for the Bucks so far this season, you probably barely know they're on the Bucks.
Right. All right.
And there's like 2 or 3 names where it's just like, was that guy just a summer league guy that's still in my sheet? Does he actually have a contract?
Right.
That's what we're doing today.
They're the type of guys that if you and I were doing the NBA 2K Sim show, you would, affectionately refer to them as
something not nice.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, straight creative players.
Oh my
that's
God.
What they are.
Yeah.
They're creative players, and that's what we get. I'm running the Sims on my side, and we'll get into some of this. I want to see what exposures look like. I know Jordan's going to put it up on the screen. Can I say, by the way, you may not fully appreciate this because, I know you and Katie, you got the pups, but no kids. Since the inception of the NBA, I know, tell me about it, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Since the inception of the NBA Sims tool and the late swap option, I've actually been able to like nightly play basketball, play NBA.
Nice.
And it's
nice.
It's awesome. Like thoroughly enjoying it. I'm going to sleep before the games are over, but after the 10 o'clock tip.
Yeah.
But then I wake up like with my daughter at 2 a.m. and I sit down and I'm immediately going straight to draft. It feels good to be able to do that again, to get back into it.
It's so much easier than it used to be.
It is, especially for me. Like it used to be whatever. I'll be up till 2 a.m. in the morning, 2 a.m. Doesn't matter. But
those days are long gone.
Right. Which is why it's more exciting to do NBA shows as well, because I can do it nightly again. So I'm pretty stoked about that.
I like it.
Tom took down 100K with the Sims in the showdown again yesterday. I'm not sure if I should be happy for him or just like, can I have one?
Yeah, I would like to have one. I'm on a bit of a cold spell. Been just showing up in like 3rd or 4th a lot and not the one that pays off everything for a couple months. So it has been highly stressful as of late.
Well, let's make it happen. Boston, Indiana Pacers, 244.5 point total here. First off, Celtics 4-point road favorites. Tatum, Porzingis, Hauser questionable. Do you have any real because I know Porzingis with the eye got poked in the eye on a contested rebound. But do you have any real read on who's in or who's out today? Because I do think there are a lot of guys who are questionable. It's pretty easy to know if they're going to play tonight or not. What about Boston?
Someone is sitting or the line will move. That much I can tell you. So it's sitting at 4. The line is sitting at 4 right now. On the season, Boston has a +10 net rating. Indiana is at +1. So that's a 9-point difference. If we assume that both teams are at full strength, you'd be looking at something along the lines of a 6-point line in this game, just generically speaking. For Boston to be a 3.5 or 4-point favorite, I think the assumption is that we're going to not have one of Porzingis or Tatum. If that's not the case, and they're both in, then I think this line ends up closing at like 5.5 or 6. So we're going to move in one of the directions. But as of right now, I think the implication is that we're going to lose one of those guys.
Okay. Do you have any inclination as to who?
I don't, and I don't really think it matters all that much for today. Now, obviously, the matchup is fantastic against Indiana, but if Porzingis is out, we already have Horford at 6,600. So even if you're just getting him up to 30 minutes, Fournette's already at 4,600. I don't think that we just immediately have like a ton of value out of Boston. All the starters incrementally look a little bit better. If it's Tatum that's out, again, all of the starters look incrementally better. You give a chunk of minutes to Sam Hauser. Maybe that creates an O'Shea Brissett pivot to one of the junk value dudes that exist for Milwaukee. But ultimately, we're just going to like the White, Brown, Holiday, and whoever's left starters a little bit more than we did before.
And that's what I was going to ask you, because you already alluded to it. But, every year we get one of those teams, one or two of those teams that are just like perfect for DFS. They lead the league in Pacers, have one of the bottom performing defenses, Pacers, and one of the best offenses. They're number 1 in offensive rating, right ahead of the Boston Celtics this year. So, a team that can score, that can keep pace with a good opposing teams, but also is just an absolute sieve on defense and plays really fast.
They're in a, oh man, it feels like it happened. It feels like Indiana's on this slate every day. I feel like I talk about them more than I talk about any other team, but man, it's fun to play whoever else they're playing when the Pacers are on the slate because they're 28th in defense and number one in pace. Like it's
Exactly.
just, and
And
they're
number
second
one
in
in
offense.
offense.
So yeah, so you also get like this gigantic score in all. It's, I mean, Washington's no different. It's just their offense sucks too.
You know what I looked up this morning? The when I first started playing DFS, like back, I think 2013, 2012, something like, well, I don't know. How long has it been at this? I couldn't tell you, but it was back a long time ago where
Yeah.
I heard a commercial on like on the way to the gym. And I was like, what's this FanDuel thing?
Mm-hmm.
The average NBA score for an individual team was 98 points.
Slightly
Now
different
it's
now.
115.
Yeah. It's a completely different game.
Right? So like, what would you, if you were to say the average score, would you just take 98, 98, add them together, and that's your average total essentially?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
so now your average total's 230.
Yeah. When like Atlanta plays Indiana, it's 260.
It's crazy, dude. It's nuts. All right. Hey, one more thing on
It's more
Boston, though.
fun. I'd rather have it
Definitely.
like this than a snooze fest like it used to be.
If you used to hit 300 points, you were winning a tournament. Like,
Yeah.
if you scored 275, you're cashing. You know?
Yeah. There's the amount there. I mean, there's like 25-30% more fantasy points scored than there were before. It's bonkers. It's a completely different game.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Also, though, let's just assume that what if everyone does play for Boston? Because if that is the case, it's still a really good, fast-paced matchup against a bad defense. Should be a competitive game. Does that kind of tamp down interest in most of these guys, despite how good of a spot it is?
It's not yes and no. It's not that you're not interested in White, Brown, Tatum, Holiday, Porzingis because they all have MPEs. Their prices are all very reasonable to get to. They're solid enough values on this slate. The problem lies in that you have to choose between them. So I'm very happy to have any one of those dudes in basically everything that I build. If I've got 150 lineups and I've got one representative from Boston in all of them, like I feel great about that. It's probably a little bit of a stand on Boston, but still the environment for this game is great. The problem is picking between them. And you see it in the ownership. 5% to Porzingis, 3 to Brown, 2 to Tatum, 2 to Holiday, 1 to Derek White. There's no way to get volume to Boston because there's too many like looking guys, but they all look good individually. I don't have a big stand on anybody. 4% of Porzingis is the most I got. 3% to Derek White. But you remove one of those guys, everybody gets like an extra minute. Everybody gets like an extra point or two of usage. And all of a sudden you go from that guy's okay to I probably want a little bit more now against Indiana. But for right now, with everybody in, if you have a guy that you like the most, I have no problem saying, but go ahead, grab that guy. You won't feel bad about it. I just don't know how you prioritize anyone from Boston.
On the Pacers side, Nembhard, Bruce Brown, Isaiah Jackson, all questionable in this one. The one guy that we have, any considerable ownership going to, it is crazy you see these games that have a 245 total with just not a ton of ownership because pricing factors into all of this, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nembhard, Brown, Isaiah Jackson, questionable. Right now, though, Jalen Smith, I ran the Sims. My Indiana exposure, like 7% Halliburton, 5% Miles Turner, 15% Jalen Smith right now, though.
Oh, that's slightly less than me.
Oh, you have more than that right now on Jalen?
Yeah, I have 77.
Slow played that one real nice.
And we haven't projected for
7%?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have Isaiah Jackson in or out?
In.
Okay.
In. I have him at 12 minutes. I have Jalen Smith at 22. Smith is power forward center eligible, 4,700. He's been at 1.06 fantasy points per minute over the past 30 days. I got him around 1.1 for this matchup because while it's a difficult defensive matchup, Boston's still fast enough. They're middle of the pack in pace. But for Smith, he's just ultra efficient. Last time out, he's been getting the start alongside Turner. Doesn't really close, but he did pick up a staggered rotation in this matchup against Boston their last time out. So he played 6.5 minutes in his first quarter rotation. Then he played 9.5 minutes in his second quarter rotation. Now, Isaiah Jackson did pick up his second foul, but if you're Indiana, like, why exactly are you caring that he picked up his second foul? So if you want to say that maybe Jalen Smith picked up an extra minute or two in that second quarter because they took Jackson out, sure. I don't really think that matters as much. Like, you're not, if your backup center is going to foul out, you don't really give a shit. So he ended up playing 16 minutes in the first half. He picked up another 5-minute rotation to start the third quarter. And then they got him in for a staggered rotation because Isaiah Jackson now got up to 4 fouls. Again, I don't know how much that should matter, but it looks like they took him out because of it. But you got this staggered rotation of Jalen Smith before they went back to Turner. They don't ever seem to close with him. But those extra minutes were at least a little bit interesting. He ended up playing about 26. Again, I only went to 22. So you can see the path where he could pick up an extra minute or two or so. In theory, something could happen where you don't have Bruce Brown again. You don't have Andrew Nembhard again. Maybe those minutes could be a little bit more interesting. But at 22, I just think he's a really nice point per minute guy at a salary that you kind of need today. It gets you a little bit away from some of that Milwaukee value. And we just saw him play those minutes in this exact same matchup, 2 days ago or 3 days ago, the 6th, 2 days ago. Do I want to have 77%? Of course not. And I will have certainly less as we move on to the day, like throughout the day. But I think he's a little underrepresented in ownership to start off.
All right. Well, then I guess the natural question after that is, what does value look like on this slate to you outside of total question mark Milwaukee guys? Because it's not like Lillard's out and they have nobody else. It's still Giannis and Middleton, right? Like, they still have the heavy hitters. So a lot of that value could be a massive bust today. And we're already not sure on projecting the minutes.
Yeah, there's not a lot outside of Milwaukee. If I'm just looking at guys that I have a lot of, it is Andre Jackson, who we'll get to. It's Marshawn Beauchamp, who we'll get to. It's Pat Connaughton, who we'll get to. I got it more than I should of Corey Kispert. He's projected for 20% ownership. I think that should be pretty easy to find a different way to go. Maybe if you get Landry Shamet and DeLon Wright out again, you feel a little bit better about that Kispert ownership. But we're seeing 30% ownership coming into Chris Dunn. That's the piece that I think is the most interesting. Chris Dunn today. Chris Dunn plays 22 minutes a night. Now he's guard forward, which is slightly better positionality than you've got for Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith is a better per minute guy playing the exact same minutes as Chris Dunn, or potentially slightly more. Why is Chris Dunn 3 times as owned as Jalen Smith? Like, that one right out of the gate makes no sense. I'm a third of the field on Chris Dunn, and I just gave that ownership to Jalen Smith instead. That's just one natural pivot that I see. But I just see all of these guys pulling 20 or 25% from Milwaukee and think, okay, there's other guys in this range that we can get to. Maybe if I have 35% Jalen Smith, it feels a little bit better, and that's the stand I want. 70 might be 70 might be aggressive.
Anything else on the Pacers? Because I want to get to this Thunder team. There's a lot to get into here. Again, we talk about a fast-paced team and a bad defense. Well, Washington takes the cake. So,
for the rest of Indy, Halliburton's 10% owned. I think he's obviously a guy that you would like to get to pretty regularly. You have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at basically the exact same price, but he gets to face the Wizards instead of the Celtics. So it's hard to want to go to Halliburton over Shai. Ownership plays a role. Only other guy that I have in double digits of ownership is Miles Turner. It's a 28-minute guy, but he's down to 6,600. He's been at 1.15 DK points per minute over the past 30 days. That's about where I have him in this spot. I think that price tag is really nice for Turner. And maybe you get lucky and you don't have Kristaps Porzingis out there. Matchup will look a little bit better if Turner gets Luke Cornett instead.
The Thunder are 11-point road favorites.
Yeah.
This game, particularly on the Thunder side, plenty to talk about. 246.5 total, highest on the slate. It eclipses that Celtics Pacers game. The Wizards have the worst defensive rating in the league this year. They're playing essentially the exact same pace as the Indiana Pacers. They're essentially tied for the fastest team in the league. And SGA is a stud. No surprise that he on a 6-game slate is pulling 33% ownership. Chet Holmgren at 18%. Once you get past that to like the Giddies and the Lou Dorts and the Isaiah Joes, it comes down. But the whole team does have, like, you're going to get some exposure to this team across the board. But SGA and Chet Holmgren right now, two really interesting spots.
Oh yeah. I have a ton of Shea, as does the field. Currently projected for 33. I have 33. I don't know how you get away from this piece. Like, do you have that natural pivot from SGA to Tyrese Halliburton here? You save $200. You cut the ownership by a 3/4 from 33 down to 9. But on paper, I don't know how you get away from it. Washington's defense, atrocious. Pace, huge. SGA over the past 30 days, 1.63 fantasy points per minute. I've got him at 1.6 in this matchup. 33% usage. He's got a 30% assist rate. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's projected to score like close to 35 real points in this spot. It's not like he's not adding anything else in terms of rebounds or assists or steals or anything like that. He looks like the second best pay up option for today. Only reason it's second is because Giannis is on this slate and there's no Dame, and he gets to face Utah, which is also a fantastic matchup. But SGA is probably the second best play of today's slate, maybe third, depending on how you want to look at Chris Middleton. It's just anytime you can get up against Washington, you have to do it. This team is Swiss cheese defensively. And then for the rest of OKC, that's where you start to get a little nervous. You get $7,700 Chet, who I'm very happy to get to. I think the dynamic between him and like a $6,600 Miles Turner is very interesting, but I am getting to Chet. Please get to whatever Dort you can get to, 5,200 small forward, shots falling a little bit better this year. Giddey's minutes are slowly creeping up. He's been shooting a little bit better as of late. 1.25 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. Maybe he's putting his little scandal behind him. And then you can just scatter the rest of these guys for value, which is never fun. Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe. Is anybody else getting an ownership? Kenrich Williams is getting 2%. I try to avoid those guys as much as possible because I just don't trust the OKC value or like the minutes that are going to come in. But if they're going to be 11.5 point favorites against Washington, it's the kind of team where I'm okay getting to some shares of Cason Wallace or Isaiah Joe. Someone else will look decent. The only guy that I really struggle to get to is Jalen Williams. I think his price is just a little too expensive for where he is. He's great. I mean, we're talking about a fantasy point per minute guy that plays 30 plus minutes, starts, closes. Like there's no risk of him not having his playing time unless he gets hurt. But at 7K, it's just easier to find guys around him. He becomes a pivot more than a guy that you focus on.
Pulled SGA props up on OddsShopper, and 33.5 on DraftKings, juiced -130 to the over.
Yeah.
Like that.
I got him at 35, so that fits.
Yeah. 47.5 PRA. They're big numbers, man.
Yeah.
Those are
huge.
big numbers. So
huge.
Yeah, it makes a ton. I wonder what Holmgren's PRA is today. You want to take a guess?
30.5.
You look?
No, it's just what I have.
I mean, I know that you have it in front of you, but it is exactly 30.5.
Well, maybe I'm just really good at this.
Maybe you're doing something right. Yeah.
Well, you should tell my prize picks video because I've been getting destroyed.
On what?
My prize picks video has gone icy cold after a very hot November.
It happens, man. Especially when you're trying to combine multiple legs. It's it's not as easy. You know, you can't go, hey guys, we went 3-2 yesterday. You can't go, we went 4-2. It doesn't matter on prize picks.
Nah, sure doesn't.
But the good thing is on those pick'em sites, it carries you over for a long time if you have a nice run. That's the difference. Like you have a nice run and you nail a couple of those 3 or 4 leg lineups. Well, now you're in business. By the way, Better, sponsor of the show, $500 first match deposit bonus, Josh, up to $500, up to 100 extra entries. I say it all the time on the NFL shows, but the deposit bonus is nice. The being able to up to 100x is nice. In my opinion, the biggest thing as someone that's in a legal sports betting state is to be on as many of these sites as possible in order to always get the free square. You don't get free squares on DraftKings and FanDuel. No. You do on Better. So you're already on Prize Picks, Underdog, Sleeper, whatever. You're like, I don't need another one. Well, if you kind of rebalance some of those funds over there, now you're always getting every best line on all of these. You're always getting every free square. The ROI over time is going to look massively different if you're just sitting on one site every time and picking what they've got you. Why ever do that? And anywhere else in life, you're like, you know what? I'm going to find the best deal on something like this. And when it comes to making money and not just going out and purchasing goods that have no value past that, if nothing else, take the time to get on as many of these as possible.
Yeah. You undersold it. I tend to sell this one as, particularly for this better offer, the $500 deposit bonus is massive in comparison to what you see for some of these other ones where it's 100 or 200. Like if
The
you
only
can
reason
get that
I downplay it
500,
is not everybody has the 500 to put in.
yeah, you should rob someone to get that money. Jordan's already dressed for it. He's trying to make his deposit on better for today. No one can see that, but just trust me on it. No, but like if you can get up to that 500, starting your bankroll off with double the amount of cash at no extra risk to you is huge. Then I want to be able to shop around. I look at free squares because you can't get a lot of action down when you have the free square. That's the perfect way to offset like rake or fees, whatever you want to, whatever we're calling it on the back end for these sites. Hitting those free squares are just going to bring your costs of playing down. And then you're shopping around to find the best spot for you to hit each day. Eventually, you're probably going to be at a couple of these pick'em sites or a couple sports books. Then you can funnel your action to wherever you like to be once you've acquired your money, worked your way through your bonuses. I think that's the best way that you can start yourself off.
It is. Yeah. And once you find spots that have the best lines on these every time. But anyway, link in the description, link in chat if you haven't checked it out yet. And even if you only have 100, it's still turning it into 200, you know?
Yep.
It's that simple. Even if you only have 20, now you got 40. You're making money by doing nothing. So click that link, check it out if you haven't done so yet. No promo code necessary for better. And yeah, get in. My assumption is we'll definitely have free squares going into playoff football as well. What about on the other side of this one? We talked about OKC with Washington, still a super high total in this game. They're huge dogs, not a particularly good basketball team, but at the same time, we have to talk about it whenever you're getting into a total this big on a 6-gamer.
Huge dogs, beautiful dogs. There's too much ownership.
It wasn't as good as live in Austin, but it was good.
It
was not as good. It was not as good.
I don't know if I agree.
Really?
I don't know if I agree.
It's not as good.
He does Trump better now.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Yeah, but
listen to him do Trump in that one and then listen to do Trump live in Austin. He's gotten way better at it.
Exponentially better. Yeah.
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 I hate the ownership that's coming into Washington. I know why it's happening. For as fast as Washington plays, OKC plays just as fast. Unfortunately for Washington, their defense is slightly better than Washington's defense, but we have double-digit ownership coming into, and I'm going to just say 15 to make it easy. 15 to Bilal Coulibaly, Gafford, DeLon Wright, who's questionable, Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, and Tyus Jones. We have 22% coming in to Corey Kispert. Everybody that's projected to play today for Washington has at least 2% ownership. This is really disgusting to think about. Now, maybe we don't get DeLon Wright, who's questionable, and maybe we don't get Landry Shamet, who's questionable. And then these guys start to look a little bit better because they have consolidated their rotation. But the guys that I am getting the most of, one of them feels good. The other one doesn't. I do have 27% of Kyle Kuzma. His price is now down to $7,500. He was quite a bit more expensive fairly recently. It's still Kyle Kuzma playing like Kyle Kuzma, being the exact same guy that Kyle Kuzma is always. He's at 1.2 fantasy points per minute over the past 30 days. So his production isn't down. But on December 22nd, Kyle Kuzma was 8,600. That was a stretch of time where he had been 8K from November 10th all the way until December 29th. Now he's 7,500 power forward eligible. He's just not the same price that he was before. And people were still playing him when he was in the mid 8Ks. I don't love the defensive matchup, but I certainly love the pace of this game. And if he's just going to be cheaper and still playing well, then I'm going to get myself some Kyle Kuzma. If this game is relatively close, I assume Kuzma's doing something to do that. They don't have enough real players on the rest of the team. So I'm very happy to get to Kuzma. I'm less happy to get to the 45% of Jordan Poole that I'm currently getting to. He is not fun to roster. I don't know how he became dog shit, but he did. Not a beautiful dog in this case.
Yeah, he got
But
put
I
on the
have quite a bit.
Washington from Golden State.
Yeah, but like it's like he forgot what basketball like this was the first year that they brought him in. Like he had only been playing competitive basketball for 3 years and he's just like learning on the fly.
Maybe
He's
Draymond
everything has
broke him.
changed and he's terrible. Yeah, maybe, maybe.
You never know.
5,600 point guard, shooting guard. I'm getting to a bunch of Jordan Poole. I like the pace. I only went 28 minutes, so I think I'm being relatively pessimistic. Could play a little bit more if it's competitive. It's so frequently not competitive that that's really the issue. But I do like getting to Poole and Kuzma as my first two guys. I understand why we're getting the value for Corey Kispert. It helps you to pay up for the SGAs and Giannis's of the world, but we're talking about, around 20 minutes. He's 3,900, so the value is there. Koulibaly plays big minutes, but he's a bad per minute dude, 0.72 over the past 30 days. It's a value play across guard and forward. I get it. The Tyus Jones one is the one that scares me. He's at 17 minutes. I am not fond of getting to Tyus Jones if DeLon Wright is in. If Wright isn't in, then I think Tyus Jones minutes are as safe as they can be. He's going to play 28 to 30 and just run the show. But when Wright is there, it just gives them another option. If Tyus Jones just doesn't have it for whatever reason, that they can play a couple extra minutes. They don't really care what the difference is between Wright or Tyus Jones. So if Wright is out, I totally like the ownership for Jones. If he's in, I'm a little bit more pessimistic. After that, I think you're just getting to shares of everybody. If Wright is in, he's 3,700. I think that's an interesting price tag, especially if you're going to be getting to just random dudes from Milwaukee. If you're willing to play like Ty Washington today, you should be willing to play DeLon Wright if he is in. Gafford at center is always available to play upwards of 30 minutes if he stays out of foul trouble. Denny is a real player that plays 28 minutes a game. Feel free to play 10% of him. I don't want too much of Mike Muscala, but if something happens to Daniel Gafford, Mike Muscala is 3,600 and center eligible, another piece of value. Every single guy that plays in the Washington Wizards rotation today has a path to being rostered. You don't see that every day for basically the worst team in the league.
And yeah, Tyus Jones is a 1 fantasy point per minute guy this year. So if you bumped his minutes even a little bit with DeLon Wright out, he looks pretty good at sub 6K.
Yeah, like I have him in for 28, and I think he looks good. But I don't like the additional risk if the ownership is already there.
What would you give him if Wright is out? 32?
No. So like he's not going to get. They don't play anybody like this.
So you don't think he'd see a few additional minutes?
29 or 30 is going to be the bump.
Okay.
No one gets extra minutes for Washington because they get the shit kicked out of them so often. Like there is no benefit to anybody in these cases. You just feel better about not getting played off the floor.
Okay. So you're talking about you don't have to worry about the hot hand.
No, the hot hand goes away. They haven't had a hot hand all year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you're getting smoked that bad, more so just blowout run. All right, let's keep it moving here. We'll speed some. It's funny, we took a lot of time on the first two games, but you look at the totals and you look at some of the ownership coming in. It's not that big of a surprise. Then you get Chicago. No. 6.5 point favorites against the Charlotte Hornets, 216 total in this one. Vooch, Levine are both probable. I believe they played off the bench last game, right?
They did.
Yeah, and then you've got Caruso, Patrick Williams, questionable. All right, so now that you've got the Chicago team, this is what I'm curious, right? You'd be more tuned in on this than I am, but I would assume it's very pertinent. When you look at a Chicago team that has significant injuries, what naturally happens is that a lot of the price points are going to come up as a result, right?
Yeah.
Because those guys are more valuable. And then those guys return and it takes a week or so to come back to status quo. But after the first couple of games or through the first few games, everybody's price points are kind of just at a level where you go, do I really want to get there?
I find this team incredibly difficult to get to. Even if you don't want to if you just want to ignore prices to start, this team is very complicated for the way that Levine and Vooch are getting reintegrated to the team. Vooch came off the bench, played 25 minutes. They started Drummond. He played 23. I went 26-22 in favor of Vooch. Drummond's 6,700. You can't play him in 24 minutes or whatever it ends up being. Vooch is 7,500. I'm not even sure I would really like him all that much if I gave him 30. So right out of the gate, we're crossing out centers. With Levine back at 7K, that's the same price that he had been basically for most of the season. I gave him 32 minutes. I don't like it's a great matchup against Charlotte in that Charlotte's defense sucks, but he has not been great when he's been available. And it's not like there's a ton of value in that salary. You don't trust the minutes totally. He played 30 in his return. Like I said, I went to 32, gave him a little bit of a bump. DeRozan's price is fine. But again, this game is 25 points less than all of the other like other games. 244 to Boston, 247 to OKC, 245 to Utah and Milwaukee. Like it's just a totally different environment. The only guy getting any ownership in this one is Patrick Williams, 4,700 small forward, power forward. Is he questionable or probable?
Who Williams? Questionable.
Okay, so we don't know if he's playing. Two, he's terrible on a per minute basis. 0.71 over the past 30 days. Call it 0.75 if you want to be a little optimistic. I went 29 minutes. I think you can go upwards of like 31 or 32 if you're feeling good. I get his value. He's the fifth option when he's out on the floor. If you've got Kobe White out there, Kobe White's looking for his shot first. Levine's looking for his shot first. DeMar DeRozan's looking for his shot first.
Yeah.
Andre Drummond or Nikola Vucevic, they're looking for his shot first. So it's not like Patrick Williams gets you excited to get to him. He's a bad per minute dude. You're just hoping for a little bit of value. I think the guy that I think is like the sneakiest option to get to is the Q tag on Alex Caruso, because if the game's competitive, they want him to be out there playing more minutes. Like he can close over Patrick Williams in a matchup against Charlotte, get the defensive guy out there, put him out there on Terry Rozier or something like that. But he's 5,200 shooting guard, small forward. You need Caruso to close and get the minutes to be interesting. So he can only be a GPP pivot. The most I have of anybody here is 4% Caruso, 4% Patrick Williams. I'd rather have nothing from Chicago.
Yeah, Patrick Williams, man. You also, not that it matters, but you run the risk of him playing 26 minutes with 15 fans. Like the guy just sometimes disappears. And why not? He's clearly what, like the fifth option in this offense, as you were pointing out, on a good day.
Yeah, like I mean, Billy Donovan might be more likely to take the three if they kick it to him.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, hey, Rabashua hit us with a $10 super chat earlier. I don't want to miss this. Said and by the way, man, it's been a while. Glad to see you. Glad to be back. Best duo in all of DFS and probably beyond if you guys had the time to do something sport adjacent. We've talked about that many times.
We have.
We would just have, like, if we did that, we would have to completely separate ourselves from this just to avoid liability.
Yeah, I don't want to get our YouTube channel taken down.
No. By the way, you would be the guy to ask. Did you watch the Cat Williams interview with Shannon Sharp yet?
I've seen a couple clips.
Okay. I just saw it has 33 million views on YouTube from 4 days ago. And apparently he just like fired at Rogan and well, not really. He said Rogan brings on bad comedians. And I think he went at Kevin Hart and like a bunch of other, I might have to watch it.
Yeah. Kevin Hart went back at him then on Twitter. I know Rogan said like, you can come on whenever you want.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why you'd go after Rogan in a spot like that, because you would assume that Rogan would just bring him on, but yeah, I don't understand the con. I wasn't sure if you watched it though. It might be something I need to.
Cat's just a crazy person.
Oh, he's so entertaining though, man.
No disagreement. But he's a crazy person.
Do you like anything for Charlotte on the other side? Only thing notable from like an injury status outside of guys that have already been out is PJ Washington.
I'm a little interested in Charlotte here. Terry Rozier is getting 16% ownership. He's 8,300 point guard, shooting guard. We have no PJ Washington, no Gordon Hayward, obviously no LaMelo Ball. Mark Williams, without a timetable to return. So he went from doubtful for 3 straight weeks to just now out permanently. So I like the Rozier play. I'm neutral to the field there. He's been playing really well as of late, 1.25 fantasy points per minute. You're not worried about Chicago. They're a mid-tier defense. The only downside here is that Chicago's the slowest team in the league. But Terry Rozier can score, and I don't think Chicago's like apt to slow him down. Definitely like Terry Rozier a little bit more. If Alex Caruso happens to be ruled out, you get like, one of the better perimeter defenders off the floor. That should help him out. I like Bridges. So he's 8K power forward only, 8% owned, but the minutes lately have been up in a big, big way. 42 last time out in regulation, 40 the game before that. Both of those without Hayward. Now, the game before that was without Brandon Miller as well, and PJ Washington got hurt in the most recent game. So you're dropping somebody either way. 36 the game before that, 37 the game before that. They got their asses kicked pretty bad on the 28th, so we only played 33. But the 3 games before that, 38, 37 and a half, and 37. I went 38 minutes to Bridges. I think he's getting slept on a little bit in a matchup where like everybody's looking for something on Milwaukee or like the obvious spots. I think because of the way Bridges has been playing, it's more interesting. It's a home game, so it should be more competitive. Chicago's not very good, so it should be more competitive. It's only a 6-point line. I think if this game is anywhere near close, you're getting 38 minutes out of Bridges, and they're just running out of guys that can do anything. The only guys that are averaging a fantasy point per minute or more in the past 30 days for Charlotte are Terry Rozier and Miles Bridges. The next closest guy is Nick Richards at 0.85. They're not getting anything from anybody else. So they are Rozier and Bridges are the 2 guys that I want to get to.
In this next game with Houston, not a lot of ownership going here between them and Miami. In Miami, 219.5 point total. Miami 4-point favorites. Is there any way to say, you know what, I do want to get overweight to a guy like Şengün? And what's the opportunity cost at a center position today where, you know, Giannis is power forward, center eligible. Brook Lopez is center eligible. Bobby Portis is power forward, center eligible. Chet Holmgren is center eligible. Like I could go down the list. I'm just naming the guys up top, right? Who are, you know, objectively good plays. Şengün's pulling 8%. He's 8,500. It's against a slow Miami team that has a, you know, top half of the league defensive rating. Is there anything there with Şengün or with this offense in general, or with this team in general?
I had been getting to a lot of Şengün
He's good, man.
lately. By the way, I'm getting
points
dragged for saying that Cat Williams is crazy in chat. I'm not saying I don't love Cat, but we cannot, and he could be saying a lot of the truth in that interview, but we cannot act like he is not at least, you know, like a couple cards short of a full deck.
Oh yeah, he's wild. Yeah. But I thought that was the appeal.
I'm not painting him in like a you shouldn't listen to that man speak because he's crazy late. But wild is probably maybe the better word to use. But I love Cat Williams.
Yeah.
He's hilarious.
Wild would be the more appropriate term.
Yeah.
But
there's a twinge of crazy in there.
Sure. That's what makes him so appealing to people. That's what you want to know. What you want to know something. That's why that interview has 33 million views in 4 days. Like you got to be a little wild for something like that. Do you know who Charleston White is?
I do.
Do you? Okay.
He shows up a lot in my shorts.
Well, Charleston White, one of the most entertaining people to listen to ever, right? If you were to act like he doesn't say some of the wildest stuff you've ever heard, agree or disagree, you'd be lying to yourself, even if you agree with all of it. So those people get where that he even said, like, he changed up the way he approaches everything. Like this guy Charleston White was like working closely with the Senate for a long time, right? And like as an advisor to prominent politicians. And then he goes, nobody listened to me. So this is what you get, right? Like, these guys know they're kind of wild.
Where do you land on Jesse Lee Peterson?
Wait, what's his hold on, what's he say? He goes,
I don't think you could say most of the things that he says.
He doesn't curse.
No, but his topic isn't for you.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. But he yeah, and then the voice too. Like the way he articulates things. Yeah, Jesse Lee, man. You love him or you hate him, huh?
I like being entertained.
That's all it comes down to. Let's stop acting like this stuff isn't just sheer entertainment, because that's what it is. That's what gets clicks.
That dude makes me laugh a lot.
Jesse Lee Peterson, man. Yeah, I know plenty about old JLP.
Yeah. Anyway, Houston Rockets. I had been getting a lot of Şengün as of late. I think just because of this matchup, two solid defensive teams, Miami second slowest in the league. I only got to 9% Şengün. I'm single digits across the board, so I'm just like the field is. No one is over 10% ownership on the Houston side. If you get Van Vliet, you get Jabari Smith, You get Jalen Green, very reasonable GPP pivots to anybody that has like a lot of ownership. I don't know how you look at Houston and want to get to anybody in particular. It's just on this slate, this is not the matchup for DFS scoring. Someone will look good in the end. I just don't know how you do it on this slate.
Right. Yeah, Hermit Money said beta male. Yeah, they do. Jesse does call me
beta.
What about the Miami side? Jimmy Butler remains sidelined in this game, so we can dig into this one a little bit. Again, how much have prices adjusted for the injuries that we've seen with the Miami? Caleb Martin, by the way, is doubtful to play. Tyler Hero's pulling about 12%. Bam's getting around 11. Not exactly the worst matchup in the world.
I got a little bit of this Miami team. There's always like two guys out. So you're always trying to figure out what's going on here. I am likely to need to make a switch here. We have a real interesting dynamic for Miami. I'll hit on that one. I'll hit on that piece second. First and foremost, 11% ownership coming into Bam at 8,800, 12 to Tyler Hero. You've got this relationship between Bam and Şengün in this game. Very similar price tags, same position, same matchup. It doesn't appear that either one of them is getting away from the other in terms of ownership. So I like having a little bit of both. I think Hero is pretty interesting at 7,900. If you expect Miami to be getting anything done offensively, it kind of has to run through Tyler Hero. We're talking about like a 29% usage rate, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 24 real points. So it doesn't take too much. Point guard, shooting guard, 79. I got 21%. I like the Tyler Hero side of this one. I definitely like the Miami side of this game more than the Houston side. Jaquez is playing 36 minutes a night or more. He's only 5% owned. 6,200 is a big price. He's only like a 0.8, 0.85 guy. So it's not the most fun spot to get to, but the playing time's not going to go anywhere. The tricky part for this game, the tricky part for this game comes into who is the fifth starter. We've gotten Nikola Jovic over the past 3 games, and he's played, somewhere in that like 24-ish minute range with the capabilities of playing a lot more. In one particular game, he played like 28 in the first 3 quarters and then didn't have to see the floor in the fourth quarter. Haywood Highsmith is back today. And I don't know what they're going to do with the starting lineup because Highsmith has been ahead of Nikola Jovic in the rotation all season. If Highsmith is back, he could start. If Nikola Jovic is still starting, we're talking about a guy that's like 0.95 fantasy points per minute. Maybe you feel a little bit better about him. He's a $4,700 power forward center. I like Jovic if he's still in the starting lineup. If it's Highsmith, I like Highsmith a little bit if he's in the starting lineup because if we're looking for value, I'll take the guy that can play like 22 minutes potentially. But if you get Jovic still in the starting lineup, I would like to go there. We only have him projected for 13 minutes right now, and we projected Highsmith for 22. That could very well be the outcome. I don't know it yet. I don't have a great feel for it yet. I went with the assumption that we're going to get Jovic starting again, but there's no way to know that. Just you got to be ready to swap. I like the idea of having Jovic first heading into lock unless we hear anything. Since Jovic is 4,700 and Haywood Highsmith is 4, it's a lot easier to make that swap if you have to. But like he's started 3 out of his last 4 games. I mean, one of them was a 10-minute dud, but 28 minutes, 30 fantasy points against the Lakers at 3,500. Like even if he got 30 in this spot, he could have played more playing time against the Lakers in that one where he got 28 minutes. It all comes down to who's starting. So keep your eye on the Haywood Highsmith, Nikola Jovic combination.
One thing I really wanted to ask you about is this next game. And it's not just on the Milwaukee side. Okay. So I ran the Sims on my end. By the way, guys, football's winding down, still football to go, but you're here for basketball, obviously. If you haven't checked the Sims tool out, we have it for a week, a month, however you want to play it. Sims Data, if you're playing, maybe smaller tournaments, single entry stuff, the Max package, which allows you to do a whole lot more. We've got everything in the description or in the chat. Jordan can throw it in there for you. Tom, CEO, almost took down the Millie with the Sims. I've been getting screenshots from guys, even on shows that I'm not on. It's a phenomenal tool, man. And
it is.
The cool thing about it compared to NFL is, like, first of all, I'm not saying that you don't have to, or that you don't want to, massage some things on the Sims tool. Like you have the ROI boost, you can upload custom projections, custom ownership, and all of that stuff. But one of the cool, you don't have to account as much for correlation in spots like this. And you also have the NBA late swap tool. I mentioned you at the top of the show. Somebody like myself that has a 7-week-old kid, and not everyone's in my position, but other people just like have things to do and don't want to be around their computers the entire time making complicated swaps after lock. Tonight's a perfect example with this 8 p.m. Bucks game coming up. We have the late swap tool where literally all you do, it has allowed me to do this seamlessly. Now, all you do is upload your lineups, click a few buttons, get the swaps in there. You have late breaking news 10 minutes before a game locks, doesn't matter. We've been awesome about getting those updates in time to make sure that you can do it. We've had, I mean, look, people are making money off of it, but for me, it has been more so just ease of playing the most complicated time, time commitment of a sport that there is in NBA. I don't think I'm overplaying that. Like, it is such a time commitment to play NBA without the appropriate tools.
Yeah, and you should be late swapping every opportunity you get in the NBA. You should be taking all the information that you've acquired since the games have started and trying to update your spots, especially when news happens and you really have to do it. You are putting yourself miles behind the 8 ball if you do not use late swapping to some degree. You should be looking at it constantly. The moment new value opens up, whatever lineup you had before is probably not the most advantageous lineup you could have at that point. And now with the late swap tool, it takes all the stress out of it. I hated late swapping before. It was
I literally
laborious,
couldn't play. I couldn't play.
It was a laborious process.
Yeah. Laborious. Yes.
I'm not British. Laborious.
No, like it made it so most nights I couldn't even play, honestly.
Yeah. It made it so most nights I hated my life.
Exactly. And then you're getting up for the process show, waking up at 5:30, but now you're just up till 10:30 just to make sure,
Now it doesn't have to be like that. It's so much easier. It's so quick. It's so easy. It's so smooth. It's intuitive. It lays out all of the, it'll show you the lineup you have. And then underneath it, all of the potential swaps ranked in order of how good they are. If you can choose a different one if you want. It'll give you whatever you want to be as the best ROI lineup, but you don't have to take it. Maybe 2 of them are really close and you want to go a different direction or change up your exposure a little bit. It's all just laid out for you in a giant table. Oh, there's my lineup. Oh, here's 10 more different lineups that I can make just with that structure. It doesn't get easier.
And Greg did a lot of great tutorials you can check out too for this. If you have any questions about any of these tools, my DMs are open. Hit me up. Happy to direct you to the right spots. But with the late swap tool, on top of the sims, right? Because everything's included. Our ownership, player projections, premium Discord, boom bust tool, everything. But the sims is kind of the holy grail. You can just one click and favorite all of the best ROI swaps, and then just go over to DraftKings. Literally upload it straight into DraftKings. So, or FanDuel, whatever. It's awesome. So check it out if you want, guys. Link in the description and chat. Really, really awesome tool, innovation that we've done over here. I think you're going to love it. I know I have. I know it's made my life exponentially easier. But I mentioned it because I'm getting a lot of the value for Utah today early on. Sexton, Clarkson, Chris Dunn, Walker Kessler. Not much of the expensive guys like Lauri Markkanen, but some of these cheaper guys in that 4 and 5K range, pulling a decent amount of them this morning.
This is a weird ass team. They're like, their bench is better than what they have as their bench now is like better than their starting lineup. They're really, really weird. Some of their starters don't close.
Man. A lot of guys get minutes.
Yeah. So like Chris Dunn's leading the charge with 31% ownership. He's a solid point per dollar play in a matchup where he's guard forward eligible, but he plays like 22 minutes a night. Either 31% ownership goes away, or I think he's like a bad play at that ownership in large field contests. It's one of the two. He shouldn't be as owned as he should not be the 5th most owned dude on today's slate. He just shouldn't. And I hope he is by the time we get to the end of lock, because I would like to be on a different spot on Chris Dunn than where his ownership is currently showing. We have his optimal rate at 18% and 30% ownership. Adam says it a lot on the show, and I'll reiterate it here. You're going to see when you have giant gaps like that, Same situation is happening for Chris Middleton, 60% owned, optimal rate 34. Now, that's a little bit different because of what Middleton is and where his salary is, but either Chris Dunn's ownership is going to come down, or he's the biggest negative leverage play that you can get to today based on his optimal rate. They usually tend to converge a little bit. So I would expect Dunn's ownership to come down to like 20, 21, something like that. Looks a little bit more manageable. I just don't want to be there. I have 13%. To me, that's a very easy fade if you're looking for that kind of play. Meanwhile, I think the Colin Sexton ownership at 24% looks good. 5,800, point guard, shooting guard. They closed him alongside of Jordan Clarkson in their last time out. Obviously, a very different skill set than Chris Dunn, has the ability to score 1.2 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. I like the ownership for Sexton. We're seeing 14% ownership to Walker Kessler. That's kind of unappealing to me. They closed with John Collins last time out and not Walker Kessler. So those guys are basically splitting 48 minutes at the 5. I went 25-23 for Collins and for Kessler. We have Kessler in for 24. We have Collins in for 24. So we're basically in the same spot on the site. I don't love that ownership for Kessler. It's just really easy to find others. We're never on a shortage of centers. But the guys that I'm looking at are some of the guys that aren't getting a lot of ownership. 4% to Lauri Markkanen. I have 11. I would happily get to the best guy on Utah in this spot if I can. 3% to Simone Fontecchio. I have 11. Like, this is another guy where at 5K, he plays real minutes and no one really takes his minutes. I went 29. I'm a little bit higher than what the site is right now. Small forward, power forward. I like the MPE. People continue to go to Jordan Clarkson. He's 6,100 shooting guard only. Now, he is playing out of his mind as of late. If he closes, he gets 30 or 32, but he doesn't have to. We got to remember, Utah's a 9.5-point dog in a matchup against Giannis. I get the Dame's not in the game. Doesn't seem to matter in terms of the line. So the first person that's going to lose playing time if this one goes away is the guy that plays off the bench as the six-man scorer type, and that's Jordan Clarkson. So if he's already 19% owned in this matchup, I think that's a little heavy for what we could potentially see. We gave him 29.5 minutes. I probably have to give him an extra minute to feel a little bit better. But just looking at it, 19.5% ownership, 16% optimal rate, just a little too high. The lack of an MPE is really the slowdown factor for me for Clarkson. Everybody else gets one except for him.
It's weird. And I mean, another wrinkle too is just, if this game were to get out of hand, Utah on the road against Milwaukee, even without Dame, who loses those minutes first? It's always your sixth man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not playing deep into the fourth. So
no, like if this game is going towards where that line is and it's 14 or 15 in the fourth, Jordan Clarkson might not play the last 7 minutes of the game. And that's going to put him in at 27 or 28. Yep. If they're winning, then that's fine. Then you probably see 30, 31, 32 out of them. I don't know.
Fontecchio coming off 32 minutes in regulation last time out too. Not a great per minute guy, but
no,
he's seeing real run in this offense, like you said.
And he's seen it regularly. Nobody else sees it that way regularly. Last 4 games, 31, 29, 35, 25, and 33. So only that 125 game, but no one played in that one. The most minutes that anybody played in that game was 26, and they played 13 different dudes. So that's the only way that you're not going to get Fontecchio playing 28 to 30 minutes is if it's a complete whitewashing.
Let me ask you a question on Milwaukee, right? Because obviously there's a lot of really good plays here with Dame already ruled out. Cameron Payne can't ignore the fact that he's out either. Because, I mean, look, if he was in, what does his ownership look like at his price point?
I don't know what his price is, but probably 80.
Yeah, right. Campaign is I didn't know either.
3,500. He would have been 80%
I just
owned.
assumed he was close to the minimum. Yeah.
He would have been 80% owned.
How many bucks are you comfortable playing in the same lineup?
So this kind of answer has changed now that sim tools have been more apparent and correlation effects are in. I don't care any longer. There was a time in my life where I would have given a firm answer because I was building all of this stuff more
You'll just
by
let
hand.
It go.
If that lineup comes out and says that it's a positive ROI lineup, then I will take whatever it gives me. I think 4 is probably the realistic place of where you want to be.
And for what it's worth,
well, 4 as a ceiling, really.
Of course, yeah. Not 4 as your your optimal.
Yeah, 3 is probably just about everything you're building.
Well, it's funny though because I'm looking at the top simulated ROI lineups that we have right now on my run, and Jordan can pull it up on his end too, because we're going to get some different results. But yeah, like the highest simmed ROI lineup that we have has 3. Most of these that I'm looking at don't actually have more than 3, but my Milwaukee exposures are very heavy across the board. Like I have heavy Milwaukee exposures, but it doesn't mean that I'm getting a ton of them in every single lineup.
You just can't get like the price. You can't get away from it. We're filling in 48 minutes of heavy usage.
Yeah.
It changes the entire scope of everybody. We've got Chris Middleton at 60% ownership. He's the clear best play on today's slate. He's 7K, shooting guard, small forward. So the best position you can get. The matchup is amazing. 24th ranked Jazz defense. They're 10th in pace. So it's a pace up spot against the bad defense. Middleton gets a massive bump in usage, a massive bump in assist rate just by having Dame come off the floor. I have 91% Middleton. I assume I end up having him in just about everything that I do today. I don't know how you get away from that one. He's the easiest guy to fit into anything that you do. By all means, play Giannis. 37% owned. We have his optimal rate at 26.5. We only gave him 34 or 35 minutes. He's been playing 36 a night. Wouldn't be surprised to see him play 36 or 37 today. 11-7 power forward center. Get to him. Both he and SGA are the clear top pay up options. And that's why you see them both right around 35% owned. I don't think there's a lot to talk about when it comes to Middleton and Giannis. That should be the 2 most obvious things that you do. It's everybody else for Milwaukee that complicates matters to a degree. And not even that, because like clearly Brook Lopez is going to be slightly more interesting. There's just more opportunities for him to go around. He's 34% owned. I think he's over owned, but clearly a good play. Portis is 24% owned. He gets the ability to take a couple extra shots, maybe an extra minute or 2. He looks like a very solid play. Malik Beasley plays every night, 4,600, could see a couple extra minutes, 25% owned, solid value. Pat Connaughton plays every night, terrible per minute guy, small forward, power forward, could see upwards of 28 to 30 minutes if they just want to go to like a steady hand and let Middleton and Giannis run the show. He's getting 20% ownership, looks good. It's the rest of these dudes. It's who starts, who actually plays point guard. We have Andre Jackson in for 23 minutes. He's a $3,100 point guard small forward. Terrible per minute, dude. 0.7 at best. But if he's playing 23 minutes, potentially starting, who knows? Definitely a part of the rotation. He plays when everybody's in. That kind of value at 3,100 is what allows you to get to an 11-7 Giannis or to a more expensive SGA. I have 44% of Andre Jackson at this moment. AJ Green is sneaky to me. We projected 18 minutes, only 2% ownership. Flat min, point guard, shooting guard. Love the spacing that he provides if they just want him to be out there and to let Middleton and Giannis cook. You can't leave AJ Green or that's going to be a made 3 over and over again. The guy that I want to talk about that could be interesting, flat minimum 3K Ty Washington, who's the only other real guard or real point guard on this team. Now, he does not play ever. I assume he'll be with the team. We didn't project him for any minutes. He has played 4 games in the G League this season. In those 4 games, he's played 32 minutes a night. He scored 22 points a game, and he's averaged 10 assists. If they're looking for someone to just go out there and distribute and set people up, today, in a matchup against Utah, feels like the right opportunity to throw him some playing time in a situation where you do not have a backup point guard available to you. I gave him 14 minutes. We didn't give him anything. At least I don't think we gave him anything. There could be a naming issue. No, we didn't give him anything. I have no idea if this man plays or not today. He could start and it wouldn't blow my mind. But I have at least a little bit of interest in Ty Washington. I just don't know what you do. If he's not starting, there's no guarantee that he even steps on the floor.
Well, okay, so what if we don't have any news on starters getting up till 7 o'clock? Obviously, we have the deeper dive in live before lock, but if we don't have any news on starters, and let's just say like Andre Jackson, who, as you pointed out, not a particularly good per minute guy, what if he ends up just getting steam and is super popular and he's like 30+%, are you willing to make some type of tweaks to where your exposures look different and at least protect you from what we might get? Because I guess the other question is, how close are these salaries to each other to where you can just one for one swap on who the starter is if you have a lot of Jackson? Because it doesn't, I guess it's possible, right? I guess it's possible.
So Andre Jackson's 3,100, AJ Green's flat 3K, Ty
Right.
Washington is flat 3K, Connaughton's 3,800, but he's like, nothing's changing there. You'll just feel better about him. 3,700 for Beauchamp. You'll just feel better about him. So it's easy to make the swaps you need to make if we get this news late for Milwaukee. I'm not too worried. The Jackson one, I'm not all that stressed about. He has played in every single game, in every single one of the past 13 games. When Malik Beasley missed 2 games earlier, Jackson played 26 minutes and 36 minutes. Like he's in and around 10 minutes a night, no matter what. It just feels like he's got to play like 20 today by default because they don't have enough other bodies. Like, it's not like they're going to be clamoring to get Thanasis more minutes or Robin Lopez more minutes on a day where you're freeing up 48 point guard minutes. So Jackson is safe today should be safe in terms of playing time. It's AJ Green / Ty Washington that I think are the 2 swing pieces that could become very interesting value plays if it breaks correctly.
And the only other game we had where Lillard missed, I think he only missed 1 game, right?
I think so, yeah.
It was November 9th, but Campaign was in, Jay Crowder was in, he played almost 30 minutes, Payne played 30 minutes. Yeah. It's really not much you can take away from that at all.
No. Like this could break where like Ty Washington is probably live to play 0. Not probably live. He's very live to just never see the floor. But if he's playing like just backup point guard run to someone, that could be 18 minutes today at a flat 3K price tag. Like, we don't have value outside of Milwaukee that it's like exciting to get to. If people are going to play 20% of Corey Kispert, you don't want to roll the dice on one of these guys against Utah? Like, come on.
I get it. Yeah. One of the highest implied totals on the slate. I get it.
I'm not saying you got a lot. Like, Chris Middleton is a pseudo lock play, but you want to get to like 8 to 10% of Ty Washington or AJ Green. Like, that will not look crazy in the long run, given what we're getting out of Milwaukee.
By the way,
I'm trying to win the contest. Whether Ty Washington plays 0 minutes or 12 minutes and doesn't have enough, like, it doesn't matter. Like, bad is bad no matter what. I
get what look, you could have you could have Jackson play 25 minutes and have 12 fantasy points too. Like, if he starts
0.64 over the past 30 days for Andre Jackson.
And what is it alongside Middleton and Giannis?
Not going to be better.
Right. But I'm saying, if he's inserted into the starting lineup, he's a body.
Yeah. But now, look, if Andre Jackson is the starting point guard for Milwaukee today,
I'm not saying that. I get 100%.
Heavy ownership and you get there. 100%. Whoever that 5th guy is, heavy ownership and you're getting there.
I'm just saying all of them are liable to fail no matter who starts.
Yeah. None of these guys are going to look good. They're all bad. AJ Green, bad per minute dude. Andre Jackson, bad per minute dude. Pat Connaughton, bad per minute dude. Beauchamp, bad per minute dude. Ty Washington, kind of sneaky, like not a bad per minute dude, but probably is when you're the fill-in point guard when Chris Middleton and Giannis are out there, but still can get assists.
By the way,
best way I could describe him.
147 likes. We only asked once at the top of the show.
200 is about to happen when we ask right now. That's what I was going
to say. That's live, right? 53. Yeah. We got 550 people hanging out with us on a wonderful Monday morning. I think it's doable.
I didn't know it was 11:15.
Yeah, well, we're wrapping this up right now.
Yeah, there's not a lot in the next one anyway.
It's our first show together. You know, you getting
we had to talk about Cat Williams and
exactly getting
a bunch of shit.
Jesse Lee, Charles, Phoenix, and the Clippers. The only 2 teams on a back-to-back today are playing each other. So
2.5 hours after the 5th of 6 games in the slate.
Yeah, that's a concern. Yeah, actually, not really. I mean, usually when it's back-to-backs like this, these type of guys get ruled out relatively early when it's back-to-back sitting.
Yeah, they're usually pretty reasonable about like Paul George's minutes and Kawhi's minutes.
What's that?
Yeah, they don't ever jerk those guys minutes around or anything. Bradley Beal, a picture of health. Kevin
Yeah,
Durant missed like 4 straight games before this.
I
This is
know.
a disaster. Luckily, the game sucks.
I'm just saying because it's a second of a back to back, a lot of times you do kind of, they're just like, all right, you're out today. But anyway, 5.5 point, Clippers 5.5 point favorites, 228.5 point total. Eric Gordon's questionable. That's really the only piece of injury news we have right now because they're
Yeah,
both played yesterday. So we don't have anything. Do you think some of these guys pop up as questionable when we get that first significant report today?
I would imagine.
You would think so, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's just to keep them honest. 13% ownership to Nurkic. The next highest guy on Phoenix is 3 to Booker. It's hard to really dig into this. Like if anybody's out, then all the starter dudes look a little bit better. I think 13% of Nurk is about where it should be. We saw the minutes climb a little bit this last time out, but it's not like I'm excited to play Yusuf Nurkic. You could like Miles Turner 6,600. Al Horford 6,600. He could look a lot more interesting if we happen to get Porzingis out. I have no problem whatsoever playing some Yusuf Nurkic. I do think he looks solid, but Beal, Booker, Nurkic, Durant, those are the only 4 names you can put into your lineup for Phoenix as we're constituted right now.
We already talked. It feels like a 12-game slate with the amount of teams that we've talked about that are just viable from top to bottom. Like Milwaukee, Utah, OKC, Washington. There's just a lot of teams for this slate that have thorough ownership and expected, I would imagine, exposure for like at every tier. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
how much do you really look to force a game like this? Both
I,
teams second of a back to back, Clippers on the other side.
right now, I have 1 Devin Booker lineup, 6% Paul George, 3% James Harden, 1% Zubats. There's no ownership here. 4% to Harden is the high mark on the Clippers. If all of these guys are in, like good luck picking between them. They look like the exact same team. You have Beal, Durant, Booker, center. You have Harden, George, Leonard, center.
Yeah.
Those are the only guys that anybody are playing, and those are the only guys that you should play. And everybody already knows that. But none of them look better than all of the good stuff that exists because this game's got a 227 total, and we have 3 other games on the slate with 245 totals.
Yeah, like you're gonna have a tough time getting to somebody like, say, Kevin Durant when you have SGA against Washington. Obviously different positions, but just talking about spend up. When you
Yeah.
have Giannis, there's a lot here. It's an abbreviated slate for sure, but man, there is a lot here. When you're talking Booker, Durant, Kawhi, all of these like 9K price points, my guess is you're probably prioritizing them below almost anybody above them, probably even Tatum included.
Yeah. Like these guys are perfect build a chalky lineup and swap a guy out type dudes. Like let's say you build a lineup and you've got, you went to 16% owned Terry Rozier. If you want to turn Terry Rozier into Bradley Beal, like I don't think that's a crazy thing to do at all. Free up a little bit of salary. Bradley Beal unowned in this spot. It's not a great spot and he hasn't been good, but like I get all you're getting out of Phoenix and the Clippers are ways to pivot off of chalk. That's it.
Hey guys, before we go, Josh and I were talking this morning, thinking about some ways to revamp the strategy show in a sense, not like fully, because
Yeah.
but it's similar to the deeper dive. And Josh has some great ideas. We'll start implementing that stuff. But if you ever have any thoughts, sometimes we get some great opinions, some ideas that we actually have implemented into our shows. Hit us up on Twitter. Let us know if there's stuff earlier in the day you'd like to see that could help you in the process leading up to lock, because NBA is a long grind every day, even leading up to that 7:30. So for sure, let us know about that. Okay. Favorite player at each position right now. Just one. Favorite player at each position.
All right.
Feel free to get loose with the MPE.
Yep, I will. All right. Point guard. Give me. Let's get weird. Jordan Poole.
Okay.
I already don't like this game.
I thought you were going to blow some people's heads up with the and say Ty Washington.
No.
That'd be insane. All right, Jordan Poole, shooting guard.
You know what? I'm going to amend that. No, you know what? No, I'm going to keep going. Shooting guard. I might move Poole to my shooting guard pick.
And take SGA at point guard.
Yeah. I'm going to go SGA point guard, Poole shooting guard.
Then you can take Middleton at the 3.
Middleton small forward by default.
Yep.
Giannis power forward by default. There are no choices otherwise.
What about
there.
Center? A lot of
okay, so like some combination of Jalen Smith and Giannis will be my power forward center combo.
Oh yeah, I forgot you have 70.
Team Jalen Smith today.
Forgot you had 77%. Anyway, appreciate you guys hanging out. Follow Josh Engleman. I'm on the Twitters at Lafayette_D. And thank you to Jordan Klein for producing this one. John P, I've got one. Both of you wear your hats forward. Nothing bothers me more than the whole like, man, you're this age and you wear your hat backwards. Wear yours forward, John.
Yeah.
Stop worrying
Who
about
determined
me.
There's a forward and a backward for these hats, by the way?
Yeah. Right. I'm going to start wearing mine sideways.
Yeah. That's
that would be the best. We just
I feel like Marlon Wayans.
I mean, it is the goofiest look in the world that people used to wear their hats like this. That's crazy, man.
We should bring it back.
We should.
I actually think I look good like this.
There was a time where I rocked like the side front hat too.
That was the look
like
when I played baseball.
I mean, the Felix Hernandez rocked that for a long time, but with like a bent brim. I had mine kind of straight like that. Wouldn't go back to that now. If I'm rocking it front, it's just straight front look like that, which I do often, but I like to change it up. Anyway, we'll see you guys. Appreciate you.
Good to be back.
With us.
90 minutes.
Peace. Yeah.